All right. Well, welcome everybody to Thursday, October the 1st, Lunch and Learn. Today we have with us Carolyn Harlow. She is the benefit program, or one of the benefit program supervisors at Harrisonburg, Rockingham Department of Social Services. She's been there for 21 years this year, and she is going to provide us with a wealth of information on SNAP, TANF, and energy benefits. So Carolyn, I will turn this over to you.
I apologize for my slowness. I had to find the unmute button. So good afternoon. I hope you all are doing well. I am with Harrisonburg Rockingham Department of Social Services. And today I just wanted to give you some overview information about our SNAP program, which was formerly called food stamps, and a lot of people still call that today. But it's where a household can receive some benefits to help them purchase food. Currently, the SNAP benefits can be used like at 7-Eleven, Kroger's, Walmart, all your big chains. You can look for when you enter a building, they will have a emblem on the building that says accept EBT, and that's how you know that they accept the SNAP benefit. And I wanted to just give you some information about the program, some of the information that we look at when we're making an eligibility determination for a household for SNAP benefits. So one of the most important pieces is that they submit an application, and customers can apply at the agency. They can come in and pick up a paper application at our agency, complete it and turn it in the same day. They can apply online through Common Help. They can also apply for SNAP benefits by phone. We can also receive applications by fax. So if somebody wanted to, if you were working with a customer and you wanted to help them complete the application, then you could fax it into the agency per their request on their behalf. The most important piece on that is that the customer applies as soon as they feel like they need the help. Because if a household is eligible for SNAP benefits, the benefits would start based on the date that the application was received. So that is one of the most important pieces on SNAP. When we look at the SNAP application when it comes in, we're concerned about who in the home purchase, and we're also looking at who all is living in the household and how they're related. Some people have to be included even though that they state that they purchase and prepare their meals separately. So an example, if I have a child living in my home and the child is underneath the age of 22, even though that child may purchase their own food, prepare their own food, that child would need to be included in my SNAP case, and that is per SNAP policy. The other thing we look at is who in the home purchase and prepare their meals together. So we first start looking at who's on the SNAP household, so we know whose information to gather when making the determination. There is some non-financial criteria that we look at. One, are you living in our locality that you're applying for? What is your citizenship or your alien status? Is the person provided a social security number? Do they meet the Virginia residency piece? Those type of non-financials that we're looking at when we're making an eligibility determination. We're also concerned about the customer's resources to see, are they underneath the resource limit? So for resources, the limit is $2,250 if the household does not include somebody who is aged over 60, or if somebody is disabled by Social Security, or 100% disabled by veterans. That resource limit is higher, and it's $3,500 for those households. So once we determine on the resources, then we start looking also at the income to determine, is the household underneath the income limits? So when we look at income, we are concerned about if anybody in the household is working. Is somebody receiving any Social Security benefits, unemployment benefits, child support? Do they have a neighbor or a family member who's giving them funds on a regular basis? So giving them $50 a week to help them out. All of that is looked at as income when we're determining whether a household is underneath the income limits to see if we can help out with SNAP benefits. So the income limits, if you're working with a family unit that just has one is $1,383. However, if we're working with a family that has 4 members in it, the income limit is $2,839. And those income limits just increased today because there was a change in the income limits and our allotments effective October 1st. I'll step back a minute to look at the resources. When we look at resources, SNAP does not look as many resources as what Medicaid does if you're working with somebody who is in the long-term care services. So when I say resources, we're concerned about liquid resources, your checkings, your savings, your stocks, your bonds. SNAP does not look at resources that are in a retirement account or sitting in an IRA. We only look at those when you pull those resources out. SNAP does not look at vehicles or look at property or any of those pieces or life insurance different than Medicaid does, okay? The other thing that we look at and we talk to the household about is shelter expenses. So how much are they paying for rent? Do they have a mortgage payment? Do they have to pay any real estate taxes, homeowners insurance? What about their heating and cooling expense, water expense, those type of pieces? We also are concerned about, are they paying any child support out? So are they paying any legally obligated child support benefits out? Plus, by chance, if they have a child in the home, are they paying any daycare expense? A lot of the verifications for SNAP, we can use the customer's positive statement, which is also different than when we're talking about Medicaid, if we're determining Medicaid for somebody who's age blind or disabled or for some of the waivered services. There are some verifications that we have to have more than their statement. So generally speaking, on income, somebody's working at Pizza Hut, we have to have pay stubs or a statement from the employer. So we can't just have their positive statement. However, when it comes to resources and shelter expenses, we can accept their positive statement unless that we find it questionable. So when a SNAP application comes in, it is assigned to a worker in our agency, and then the worker calls the customer and an interview is to be conducted with the household to make an eligibility determination. That again is different than the Medicaid because Medicaid does not require an interview. For SNAP right now, we're underneath some different circumstances of some policy due to the healthcare crisis, due to some changes that are being constantly changed at the state level. So currently right now we're able to waive some interviews for SNAP, but on applications, we're required to interview every household. We are not doing any in-office interviews at this time unless it absolutely does not work for the customer to conduct an interview by phone, and then we will interview them in person. And we're doing that at this time to keep our staff as safe as we can, and then also it keeps the customer as safe as they can as well. So after we gather all the information and review the application with them to make sure we have a clear understanding of what the household circumstances are, and we have all the verifications needed to make a determination for the SNAP benefits, we look at their income, look at their shelter expenses, and then there's a formula that the SNAP program uses to determine if the household meets all that criteria, how many benefits are they entitled to receive. So currently, the maximum allotment for a household of 1 is $204. And again, that went up this month. And a maximum allotment for a household of 4 is $680. Now, it does not mean that everybody who applies who's underneath the income limits will be able to receive that dollar amount. It would just mean that would be the maximum benefit amount that we are allowed to assist them in. Many factors play into that. So one, how big is the household size? Then what is the income? And then based off the shelter expenses and other deductions, what does that make their net income look like for the SNAP program? And then in the SNAP policy manual, it says if their countable or net income is this, then this is how much benefits they're entitled to. So there is a mathematical formula that works behind the scenes to determine what is the benefit amount for each household. So not every family receives the same amount of benefits. Is there any questions on the SNAP program? I realize that was a lot of information in a short period of time, but that is a basic overview of the SNAP program.
Looks like we're good. Keep going.
Okay, I'm going to move on to the TANF program. And so the TANF program is a temporary assistance to needy families. And that's where a household can receive a cash payment if they have a dependent child in the home. So a dependent child here means a child underneath the age of 18 or a child that is going to graduate by their 19th birthday. And that assistance unit is looked at a little bit differently than the SNAP case, because the SNAP case is looking at who purchased and prepares their meals, where the TANF case is looking at how are you all related, and we have more verifications with the TANF program. So if I am applying and my child is 5, then I have to prove the relationship of that child. So there are times where an aunt also or a grandparent also can receive a TANF check, but we just need to verify that relationship. So again, it's a cash payment. The cash payment is issued every month if the household is eligible. The income limits are a lot lower from TANF compared to SNAP. So if an assistance unit of 4, the most TANF grant that we would be able to issue, depending on the circumstances, is $499. So if the household's countable income exceeds that, then they are potentially not eligible for the TANF assistance. With the TANF assistance, they can use that payment to pay the rent, to pay utilities, to buy diapers, to buy anything that is needed for that household. The TANF program does have an application similar to SNAP. It's actually the same application that the SNAP is submitted on. They can apply also by picking up an application at the agency. They can apply online through the Common Help, or they can apply by phone and phone the application in. And also we accept those by fax as well. There are some non-financial criteria that the TANF program looks at. Some of it is if the child is school aged, are they enrolled in school and are they going to school? How are they related to the adult that's in the home who is applying for benefits? What's the age of the child? There also, if there is an absent parent, they do have to cooperate with support enforcement in pursuing to try to get child support benefits. Depending on the age of the child, the adult may need to work with the VIEW program where they will get assistance on trying to find employment, because the goal of that is to make the customer self-sufficient and be able to then, for them to wean off the TANF program and be self-sufficient, hopefully being able to secure a job. So there's some other criteria that the TANF program looks at when it comes to the non-financial. The TANF program also is more about verifying the information, meaning I would need to get a birth certificate or something like that to verify the relationship to the child, more than the positive statement that we accept for on the SNAP program. We also look at citizenship, and there's some alien policy where some customers, depending on what their status is in the state, whether they're eligible for the TANF grant. They also have to live in our locality as well, and meet the Virginia residency piece. The TANF program does not look at resources, so we're not going to ask questions if somebody only applies for TANF. We're not going to ask questions about checking, savings, stocks, bonds, and those type of things, because it's based on non-financial and then income-based. The TANF program does have some extra nice features, as people can get the assistance to look for employment, can get assistance with daycare. They also, maybe if they need to go back to school or GED or some type of things like that, they may be able to get some extra assistance with that, working with the VIEW program. So there's some definitely benefits of when somebody is in a position that they need help, to help them make self-sufficient for later on, that they can get through the TANF program. So that piece is a huge help. The TANF benefits are issued to an EPIC card, similar to unemployment benefits. And so the benefits go on the card each month, and then they have an option to pay bills through using of the debit card. The application also is based on the date that the application is received at the agency. And for the TANF program, we have 30 days to process to make a determination. With the TANF program also comes diversionary assistance, and that's where somebody may have a job loss, be out of employment. that is beyond their control, maybe for a period of time, and they just need help to get over this hump. They basically just need a Band-Aid. And so then we can give them several months of TANF all at one time, and instead of them getting a cash payment, we may be paying their rent for them, sending money off for car insurance, making a car payment, trying to prepare them to be self-sufficient after they receive the lump sum payment. So there is, we also can help with that. There is also with TANF some emergency assistance depending on the need of the customer, where they could get a one-time emergency assistance to help out. And I believe that dollar amount right now is $1,500. So definitely some benefits if somebody is in a difficult, challenging position, maybe in between employment, or they've just started employment and they're not going to get paid for 2 weeks or a month, that maybe this would be an option for them if they have a dependent child in the home. And again, that is based on whether the child is underneath 18 or if they're going to graduate by their 19th birthday. So if you're working with anybody that you think meets that criteria, I would encourage them to at least to apply or to call in here and talk to one of us to see if that is something that they may be interested in applying for. It can be a huge help. One nice thing about the TANF grant is it's a cash payment, so then they can use the funds more than for purchasing food. Then when you relate that to the SNAP program, the SNAP is just about applying for, just being used to purchase food. Currently that food is non-hot items where it's ready to consume. The state is looking at a waiver for customers who are over 60 or customers who are disabled to be able to purchase some meals that are hot and ready to consume right now. And we're looking at that to be rolled out in January 2021 is the goal. I don't have all the information on that, but that will be something new that would be a great option for some of our customers who meet that criteria. And maybe there'll be some local restaurants, some bigger chains that will participate in that program is the hope when that rolls out. Is there any questions about the TANF program? Again, I know that that's a quick overview, but I can try to answer some more detailed questions if you have them.
I have one question, Carolyn. Are the child care benefits that are offered through TANF different from the child care benefits that Tabitha talked about? And she talked about like daycare assistance, basically. Is it different from that?
On the child care, I don't know currently if there's a waiting list, but being a TANF recipient kind of bumps you up the list. And so my understanding is that piece is helpful. I know that child care does have some income limits that they use and that they're able to help pay some daycare expenses. The provider needs to be approved and have all the background checks.
We also had a question of, is there a general timeline of how long it takes to receive a decision once an application is submitted?
And are we talking about for SNAP or are we talking about for TANF? Would you like me just to answer for both so it's covered?
Go ahead and answer for both just so it's covered. She didn't specify.
Okay, so the TANF, we have 30 days. And so it does vary a little bit because TANF does require an interview because there are lots of questions to ask during a TANF interview, and then a lot of verifications that are needed back. So it's rare, not that it couldn't happen, but I'd say it's probably rare on the TANF side do we have everything we need once the interview is conducted to make a decision and issue benefits, because we need to verify the information more than somebody's positive statement. So we have a maximum of 30 days in which we need to make a decision for that. And our agency is sitting around 98 or 99% of timeliness on that. But how much less it is than the 30 days, I couldn't give a good answer on that piece. Some of it's going to depend on when can I get the interview scheduled, does that work for the customer, those type of pieces. On the SNAP, if somebody is eligible for what we call expedited benefits, and or some people may call them like an emergency SNAP benefits, we have 7 days to make a decision. The SNAP program, as a state, we're underneath the court order that we have to reach 97% timeliness on that. So our agency is still at this time sitting around 98 to 99% and timely on expedited and non-expedited. So in 7 days, meaning that if I make an application today, October 1st, by next Thursday, October 8th, if that customer qualifies for expedited benefits, they have to have the benefits in their hand. So we offer them an option to pick up a card from the agency. If they decline that, then we'll mail it and the card takes 5 to 7 days. If they're not expedited, and so some of the expedited criteria means that maybe they have no income or very little income and their resources are less than $150 and they could qualify for expedited benefits. And again, that just means a 7-day processing, which is faster than the normal processing. So normal processing on a SNAP application is 30 days. So if I apply October 1st for SNAP benefits, I have to October 31st to make a decision on that case. When I make that decision, it is that the customer has the benefits in hand. So if I make a decision on October 30th, I have to call and at least try to offer a vault card to them. Sometimes applications don't take 30 days. If we try to get the interview within at least the 10 to 15 days to get the interview conducted with customers. And once we've got the interview conducted, then if there's any verifications needed, we mail them out a checklist. And on that checklist, the policy states we have to give the customer 10 days to return it. So some of the things that factor into that is how long does it take the customer to return the documents. Once the documents are returned into the agency, the worker has 10 days based on policy to process the documents or the verifications that are returned in. On an application for SNAP, if I don't have everything I need by day 30, I can give a one-time extension to give another 30 days for the customer to return the documents. And then we have, based on policy, by day 60 to make a determination. Once we approve a SNAP case, those benefits are issued to an EBT card. It's a blue card, looks very similar to a debit card, so it's a blue and gray card, and it has a 16-digit number on it with the person's name if I mail them the card. If I approve benefits today, October 1st, the card takes 5 to 7 days to get mailed to them because it's not mailed locally. It's mailed out through the state, has a vendor that mails the card out. If the customer is expedited, I can issue a vault card from the agency, or sometimes a customer is not expedited, but there's a great need for them, and we can make an agency determination to issue a vault card. As long as I process the case by the 24th day to ensure the customer is going to receive the EBT card by the 30th day, then I don't have to call and offer a vault card. Because there's many factors that play into, do I need verification back? When is the interview held? When does the customer return the verifications? It's hard for me to say, oh, we normally process by day 15 or we normally process by day 20. So I don't know if you have any additional questions based on that.
I'm not seeing any.
Okay. Would you like me to move along to energy or?
Sure.
Okay. On the Energy Assistance Program, this is a wonderful program that helps in the wintertime, helps with the heating expense. So we can help somebody pay for their primary heat source. This program, somebody submits an application. They can submit a paper application to the agency. Some of your customers may have already received a pre-printed application if they received benefits in the past. Those pre-printed applications, I believe, went out a week or two ago. So some households have already received their pre-printed application based off of what we knew last year when they received benefits. But here's your address, who was living in your home. Here's the vendor that for your primary heat source. Here's what we know about your income. Please complete and return back. So the Energy program, starting October 13th, is officially open, meaning if somebody comes into the agency and wants to apply, we will give them a paper application to complete and fill out. They have until November 13th to turn that application in. So there's approximately about a month that they have to apply for that program. When they submit the application, we look at who lives in the household. At that point, we're concerned about everybody who lives in the household because they share the same heat. Then we're going to look at whoever's living in the household. We have to look at their income that the household has. If they have an open SNAP case and or an open Medicaid case and currently are receiving benefits, the agency can use that information and not request any additional information unless there's something different reported on the application. We can make a decision then. If the application is denied, the customer receives a notice as soon as the decision is rendered. If the customer is approved for benefits, they usually find out the week of Christmas, sometimes the week before, but generally by Christmas, they receive a letter, if approved, saying they were approved, here's how much they were approved for, and the money most of the time will be mailed directly to the vendor. There are times where somebody is mailed what we call a direct pay. So if I have wood heat, then I'm going to receive a check in the mail, and I usually receive that check in the mail sometime in the first week of January. I think last year checks went out a little bit earlier, so they might have received them by the end of December. But generally speaking, in the first week or two in January, then I'm going to receive that benefit amount. Vendors are also notified that a household is eligible, here's how much they were eligible for, and then the vendor sends that information directly into the state, and the state makes a payment on that. Those, for the energy program, it is for payment of your primary heat source. When we look at how many people are in the home, is anybody in the home disabled? Is there a member in the household over 60? What is the household income? Energy does not look at resources on those cases. And based by those factors and what type of energy they have, what type of heating equipment do they have, there is a formula, it's called the matrix formula, that our system automatically makes a determination and then determines how much benefit are they eligible for. One of the challenging pieces is you apply in October or November. If you're eligible for benefits, you don't find out close to mid to late December whether you're approved and how much, and then the benefits goes to the vendor in January. So the challenge comes in, the customer may need help right away, but the energy assistance program will pay out the funds in some of the coldest months. So not every household is eligible for the same dollar amount. Each year, the amount that we can help with changes. The energy program is 100% federal funds. It's underneath the Law Heat program, and so that services the fuel program and then also funds the cooling program. Starting November 1st with the energy program, we are able to assist with repairs and replacements for heating equipment and help with deposits for some vendors who accept security deposits if somebody needs that help. One nice thing about that is somebody's having trouble with their heat pump. Starting November 1st, they can submit a crisis application. We coordinate with some vendors in the area to see if somebody can go out and determine, does it need to be repaired? And here's how much we can help with in the repair, or does it need to be replaced, which is a huge help to a lot of our customers. The income limits for the energy assistance program are the same income limits for the SNAP program. So that piece is nice. Starting January 1st, a second component of crisis starts, and that's where we can help with disconnects. If somebody's low in propane, or if they've run out of wood or very low in wood or gas, then we're able to help with those pieces as well. And even though they were eligible for the regular fuel assistance program, they still can be eligible for crisis if they meet that criteria. Again, that's all income-based criteria. We process those applications as soon as we can. Right now, we've gotten a large volume of the pre-printed back, which is wonderful because we can start working on those applications starting today and entering them into our database and start making decisions as soon as we can, although know that some customers may not find out until December whether they're eligible. Any questions on our energy assistance program?
I'm not seeing any coming through yet.
Okay. The only other thing I'll mention about the energy assistance program, if you're working with somebody who needs help, and maybe they need help with SNAP, maybe they need TANF, and maybe they need energy. If you came into the agency to apply for that, and let's say we were on October 13th when we can hand out the energy applications, the customer would need to fill out 2 applications. because the applications are different. However, if the customer chooses to apply online, they can apply online for all 3 programs at the same time. The benefit of applying online is we get it electronically. We generally speaking get them the same day. I'm sure there is some delay from when they hit submit the application to it's received at the agency, but anytime they apply before 5 o'clock, then it is date stamped for that day. If they submit an application at 7 o'clock in the evening, we'll have it the next morning when we come in, and it is going to be based on the next business day because it came in after 5 o'clock. But again, a benefit is the agency wouldn't have to be open for them to apply. You can also apply for both programs, or actually all 3 programs, by phone as well. And if they wanted to apply for Medicaid, they could do that all at one time as well for all the programs that we offer here at the agency. I'll go ahead and add this. We currently, as an agency, we're giving some care funds for the city and the county that we're able to help out if a customer has a circumstance that's out of their control, has a change in income that again was out of their control. We do have where we're able to help with $1,500, maybe pay some rent, pay a utility bill, a water bill, those type of things. If you're working with anybody and they're in a challenging situation due to everything that's going on, our agency did receive some funds through the CARES Act to make some assistance or to be able to help out with that. We have through December 31st to be able to make a decision on that. Those also we're doing an interview for that and using the SNAP application to submit the application, looking at who's living in the household, what's changed in the circumstances, was it truly out of the person's control? So example, if I was working at Airmark, just because that's through JMU, I know the students or some of the students are out due to the virus, they could submit an application if the hours have been cut, and that's not something that they went in and said, cut my hours, versus the person who went in and quit their job, that person wouldn't be eligible for those funds. But if there is a situation that is out of that person's control, they may be eligible for that assistance. So I don't know if anybody has any questions.
I'm looking in the chat box. I don't see anything coming through just yet.
I can also, Andrea, send you, because sometimes I think it may be helpful just to have it in writing, like the phone number to apply by phone and to apply online. When I'm working with a customer or speaking to them by phone and I give those options, I usually recommend to them if they're going to do it by phone or if they're going to do it online, it's a great idea to have like everybody in the household have all of their names, their date of birth, social security numbers, and all of that information ready. So you don't have to go look for that information because they are going to ask you. So online or by phone is similar to the paper application. They're just not filling it out themselves, but they're either going to be asked online or asked by phone. And then by phone through the call center, those applications are submitted to us electronically.
Yes, that would be helpful. Any information you can send us.
The other thing I will mention is the SNAP policy, the energy policy, the TANF policy, and even the Medicaid policy. Those are administered by the state down to us. There's some federal policy in those, but each Department of Social Services, if you're working with another agency, we all have the same guidelines. Our processes and our flow in the agency may look different, but the non-financial criteria that is for SNAP, every agency follows. We all follow the same income limits, resource limits, etc. Just procedurally, we may do a few things different. Like our agency is broken out to, we have a TANF and a self-sufficiency unit. We have a long-term care unit who works with customers with the waiver program, with people who are in the nursing homes and people who are receiving community-based care services. Then we have an adult unit who works with the population of people that are over the age of 19, who are not pregnant, and who do not have a child in the home. And then we have a family and children unit that they work with somebody who is pregnant or somebody who has children in the home. So we're broken out a little bit differently sometimes than other agencies.
Good to know. Well, Carolyn, I don't see any other questions coming through.
Okay. If you have some later, you could go ahead and send those to me and then I could respond back to you. And I don't care if you share my email address or my contact information. If questions, you're working with somebody next week and you're going, oh, I already have a question, then you can drop me an email or give me a call. And if I can't answer it, I'll go find the answer for you.
Yes, I have Carolyn's email address and her phone number. So if you guys want it, just come to me and I will get that to you. Awesome. Well, Carolyn, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to do this. I greatly appreciate it. One day I'll be able to put a face to a name now, if you guys ever get cameras.
Well, they offered us cameras this week and I was like, oh, no, I don't want to see myself. So I will try to look presentable that day. Anyhow, if you have questions, if it's the same group on the Medicaid and there's questions you know in advance that you want me to address, if you want to drop those to me, then that way I will be prepared to answer those specific questions if there's something that hits you prior to that.
Perfect. Yes, Carolyn's coming back in November to talk about the different types of Medicaid benefits. So we will get to chat with her again. Also, Thursday's Lunch and Learns Tuesday, October the 6th, Lunch and Learn. It will be Diane Haldane from here at Vail. She's going to be covering some interviewing and resume writing. So, all right. Thank you guys so much.